All right, so here's my first attempt at doing a review worksheet for Chapter 5. Here we go. So I look here, question number 1, simplify. I cannot have fractions on the bottom, so I have to multiply it by root 2 on bottom and on top. It looks ugly, but I'll try and do better. So this gets me 4 root 2 over, no, remember, root 2 times root 2 just gets me 2. Well, now I've got a fraction. I've got 4 divided by 2. I know what that is. That just gets me 2 root 2. Now we simplify the equation. Okay, split this to be what? 12 times 4. This splits to be 4 times 3. So I've got a pair of 4's here. I can't split 3 any further. So I end up with 4 root 3. Here we're going to simplify this. We're going to split 18 to be 3. Oh, geez. 9 times 2. This splits to be 3 times 3. Circle my pair, bring it out in front. This is still underneath. So I have now 3 times 2 times root. 3 times 2 becomes 6 root 2. There we go. This is kind of nice. Find the geometric mean of the numbers. So I take 5 times 10 square root. 10 splits to be 5 times 2. I've got a pair of 5's. And I say the answer is 5. 2 still underneath. There's my geometric mean. I do here, I say square root of 25 times 36. Well, this splits to be 5 times 5. Splits to be 6 times 6. A pair of 5s and a pair of 6's. So I get 5 times 6. Nothing left underneath, so the square root goes completely away. And I'm left with the answer is 30. Okay, geometric mean between 25 and 36 is 30. Moving right along. Determine whether the given numbers can be the length of the sides of a triangle. If they can, determine if the triangle is acute, obtuse, or right. Sweet. So first I'd say, is it a triangle? Is 4 plus 5 bigger than 6? Yes? Good, it's a triangle. Now I say 4 squared plus 5 squared is what? The 6 squared. We don't know yet. So 36, 25, 16. Well, this is 41. This adds together to be 41, and 41 is bigger than 36. So that means that c squared is smaller. And since c squared is smaller, we call it an acute. Okay, now we look here. 4 plus 9 is, 4 plus 5 is 9, and that is equal to 9. So that means it cannot be a triangle. We look here and we say, oh, I like this question. The square root of 6, okay? The square root of 6 is somewhere between 2, square root of 6 and 3, because the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of 9 is 3. So it's somewhere between 2 and 3. I hope we can agree with that. But now if we notice, 2 plus 1, or 1 plus 2, either way, is equal to 3. Okay, so that means that this added together is this number here. So that means it's bigger than square root of 3. Or square root of 6. So 2 plus 1 is bigger than the square root of 6. So right there, I know that it is a triangle because 1 plus 2 is bigger than the square root of 6. So I say yes. And now I do 1 squared plus 2 squared is something to the square root of 6 squared. And since the square root and square are inverses of each other, they cross each other out. And I'm left with 6 and left with 1 plus 4. Well, that's 5, and 5 is less than 6. That makes c squared bigger. And since it's bigger, we call it obtuse. Now we look here and we say 8 plus 8 is 16, I believe. And 16 is bigger than 14. That means it's a triangle. Jolly good. Now I do 8 squared is 64. 8 squared is 64. 14 squared. Ooh, 14 squared. Let me use my calculator. I can do that. 14 times 14, 196. All right, that's going to equal 196. Well, 64 plus 64 is 128, and that's less than 196. And that means c squared is bigger. That makes it obtuse. Find the missing value. Also be able to identify each of the following formulas from the formula sheet. Okay, this is something we haven't covered yet. I just did it on 5.1. So if I say x equals 2, label the diagram. Y equals 6, label the diagram. Find h, it says. I want to know what h is. Well, I know that the whole hypotenuse is 8. So c equals 8. Now, I'm going to grab my little cheat sheet, the blue one, the same one that you're going to have. And I look on the similar right triangles, and I look at this, I say, I want to find out what the altitude is. So based on the similar right triangles cheat sheet, I say I want to do a piece of the hypotenuse, which is 2, over h, is equal to the altitude h over the other piece, which is 6. So I end up with doing the cross multiplication, and I get h squared is equal to 12. Square root both sides, and I get h equals root 12. This becomes 4 times 3. 4 splits to be 2 times 2. Pair my 2's, and I get h equals 2 root 3. Final answer. So it says here that b equals 3, c equals 9. We got to find out what x is. Oh, geez. Well, looking at my cheat sheet, I'm going to move my 9 out of the way so I have more working space. 9, that's the whole thing. Cheat sheet, I'm looking for a piece of the hypotenuse, and I'm given a leg. I'm going to use, oh my goodness, I'm going to use that leg formula, and I'm going to say the whole hypotenuse, 9, over the leg is equal to the leg over the piece I want. So I cross multiply, I get 9x equals 9, divide by 9, divide by 9, x equals 1. Moving on, x equals 4, c equals 12, the whole thing equals 12. That means that y equals 8. And now I have to find out what a is. I'm looking for a leg. So again, I use the leg formula. Hypotenuse over leg equals leg over the piece that touches it. So here's 8. I cross multiply. I end up with 8 times 12 is 96 equals a. That's an a, not an 8. A squared. Square root both sides. A equals the square root of 96. And I split that, and I'll let you do that part. But a equals something. Okay, moving on. So using the Pythagorean theorem, a equals 5, b equals 10. Well, that kind of gives it, yeah, that's kind of nice. I say that 5 squared equal to, well, no, sorry, 5 squared plus 10 squared is equal to c squared. This gets us to 125 equals c squared. Square root both sides. C equals, oh geez, 5 root 5. Did that with my head, because 25 goes into 125 5 times. So you get 5 times 5 times 5, pull out your pair of 5s. Moving on. A equals 3, so I have 3 squared plus b squared is equal to 5 squared. Gives me 25 equals b squared plus 9. Subtract 9, subtract 9. B squared equals 16. Square root both sides. B equals 4. Now, if I had noticed, I could have used Pythagorean triple. I had a 3 for the shortest and a 5 for the longest. That's a 3, 4, 5 triangle. All right, it's pretty easy. So for A, I have the square root of 6. B is 2 root 6. And I'm going to do root 6 squared plus 2 root 6 squared. The whole thing is equal to c squared. This gets me 6 plus 4 times 6 is equal to c squared. This gets me 6 plus 24. That's basically 30. equals c squared. Square root both sides. C equals root 30. Now this can split. I'm going to let you do that on your own. So special right triangle trig. Oh, I like this part. Okay, so across from the 30. Across from the 30, based on our cheat sheet, is x. So x equals 10. A equals x root 3, and b equals 2x. So that means that if I double 10, I get b equals 20. If I put a root 3 at the end of it, I get a equals 10 root 3, and I'm done. Over here, I've got 45, 45. I look at my notes, I say this should be x root 2. This should be x, and this should be x. So now I've got to solve for x. I've got x root 2 is equal to 20. Divide both sides by root 2. Oh, I can't have that in the denominator, so I times it by root 2 over root 2. And I get 20 root 2 over 2. This can reduce to be 10 root 2. Now if I compare that up here, that means that x equals 10 root 2. Well, if x equals 10 root 2, then this is going to be 10 root 2, and this is going to be 10 root 2. So a equals 10 root 2, b equals 10 root 2. And we're done. Oh, this is a great question. This is just like on the test. So right here, this should be x root 2, x, 2x, and x root 3. So since 4 and x are in the same position, I know that x equals 4. So I can say c equals 4 and d equals 4. Now if this equals 4, I double it to get here, and that's 8. And I plug my x in here, and I get 4 root 3. That's my answer. Awesome. So cool. All right, over here I've got a 60, 60, 60. That makes an equilateral triangle, so I know that b is equal to 6 root 3 because it's equilateral triangle. Now I look here and I say, here's my longest side. This should be 2x. This should be x, and this should be x root 3. So if I solve for x in this equation, I say 2x equals 6 root 3. Divide both sides by 2. This gives me x equals 3 root 3. And if I plug it in over here, I'm going to end up with x root 3 becomes 3 root 3 times root 3. Well, root 3 times root 3, this becomes just 3 times 3, which becomes 9. So my a value, a equals 3. Ooh, the diagonals of a rhombus have the length of 24 and 8. So here's 8. Here is 24, the whole big thing. Or I could look at it as 4 and 4 and 12 and 12. Either way you want to look at it. Find the length of a side in simplest form. Well, in that case, I'm not going to care about the 8 and the 24. I'm going to care about the 4 and the 12. Notice how this is a rhombus. We have 4 squared plus 12 squared equals c squared. 90 degrees because it's a rhombus. So I get 16 plus 144. This should get me 160. So I say c squared equals 160. Square root both sides. And I say, let's do 160 splits to be 16 and 10, 5 and 2, 4 and 4. Well, I got my pair of 4s. I pull those out, and I'm left with 4 root 10. So c equals 4 root 10. Okay, moving on. The vertex of an isosceles triangle is 120 degrees. Ooh, this part's 60. This part's 60. Okay. And now I know I angle bisect, and I get 90 degrees here and here. That makes this one going to be 30. The base length is 20. Well, that means each piece is 10. So now I've got to solve for the height here. Well, in a 30, 60, 90, this should be x. This should be 2x. And this should be x root